Hi everyone, it's Emily. Today I'm going to be going through my TBR, or my planned TBR. So if you look behind me, so this shelf here is my TBR shelf. As you can tell, it's very full. There are 2 rows of books here. I have some like stacked higher at the back because there's so many books there that I couldn't fit them all in. So I've just gone through that shelf and picked out certain books that I want to read in a particular order. Again, I'm not going to get through that whole shelf. I've just picked out particular books that I want to read. I have wanted to read for a long time. And yeah, so I have a really bad history with books. I buy more than I can read. I'm a notoriously slow reader. I get distracted very easily. I have the attention span of a fly. So for me to be able to concentrate on one book for an extended period of time or long enough to finish it is pretty good. When I was younger and in high school and after high school, before I really had any like kind of responsibilities or any time consuming hobbies like YouTube or writing or anything like that, or makeup, or you know, whatever it is that I do, I would read all the time. I always think that I read a lot, but like compared to other people, I probably really didn't read that much. But in my defense, I am a really slow reader, so what felt like a lot for me was probably not really a lot, and you know, it also probably took me the same amount of time as people who have read a lot because I'm just that slow of a reader. But yeah, I used to read multiple books at once, and I would kind of jump between them all just so I actually was invested in all of them, because I found that when I tried to read like a single book at once or tried to concentrate on reading one book, I would get restless of reading that one book. But yeah, I always buy books with the intent to read them. So I haven't been doing a lot of reading in the last few years, and I had started a lot of books and then I got distracted by being pregnant and being sick and you know, that kind of thing, that I didn't finish them. So I gotta catch up. I've gotta finish reading this shelf. I gotta read the other books on the shelves that I've started and haven't finished. I have so much reading to do. I'm not allowed to buy anything. Dan is really enforcing this book buy ban. I'm not allowed to buy any new books. No more new books for me until I finish reading every single book on this bookshelf that is mine, because there's a lot of Dan's books on here that I'm never gonna read. So the next few books that I'm gonna pick out are just books that I've wanted to read for a long time, ones that I'm really in the mood for at the moment, and a couple of things that I just want to finish because I've already started them. But yeah, so these will be my book choices for the next few months probably. There's not a lot of them, but I'm a slow reader. It's gonna take me a long time. Let's just get into it. So the first book and my current read is The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. So this is book 1 of the Mistborn series. Brandon Sanderson is an author I've wanted to read for a very long time, and this series particularly is a series I've wanted to read for a very long time because it definitely sounds like my kind of book. I love the idea of it, of the world and the powers and stuff that people have, and it sounds so good. But yeah, I'm not going to talk too much about what the books are about. I also kind of like going into books not knowing what they're about and just picking it up as I go. A lot of the times I'll buy a book because of the book cover and won't read the blurb, will have no idea what I'm getting into, and then just read the book and hopefully enjoy it. I want to read this one because of all the hype that Brandon Sanderson gets, all the hype that this series gets. I've just heard it's really good. Charlotte and Renee did this for their knitting book club, and Charlotte had like nothing but good things to say about it, so I'm very curious. I want to read it. I want to read more adult fantasy, so this is kind of my first real leap into adult fantasy, and I'm very excited. So the second book on my TBR, and this is the order that I want to read them in, so keep that in mind. So the next book is Heart-Shaped Box by Joe Hill. I have wanted to read Joe Hill since I saw the Horns movie. I absolutely love that movie. I love the whole feel of it. The atmosphere of it is just amazing. If you haven't seen the movie Horns with Daniel Radcliffe in it, oh my god, go and watch it. It's so good. But that made me very curious about Joe Hill. So I actually bought, you can see it there on the bottom of that book pile, I actually bought Horns, I think at the start of this year or maybe a year ago. I'm not entirely sure. And I just never got around to reading it. I'm also hesitant to read it because I love the movie so much, and if I don't enjoy the book, I don't want that to ruin the movie for me. So when I saw Heart-Shaped Box in my local secondhand bookstore, I like grabbed it straight away because I was like, at least I have no expectations going into this one, and I can get a taste for Joe Hill's writing, and if I really like it, then I can read Horns and not feel terrible. This book also got a lot of hype from Cam Wolfe. I'm pretty sure he said it was his favorite book, so that makes me very excited to read it. Cam is another author tuber. He's also Australian, and I think he has an anthology coming out, so check his channel out to check out that anthology. I'm very excited. It's also like kind of short. It's like under 400 pages, so super keen. Also, before I forget, I haven't really read any horror before, and this is horror. So this will be my first horror novel. Bit surprising that I haven't read horror because I've now written 2 short stories for a horror thriller anthology, and my novel has a lot of kind of horror elements to it as well. I'm also a big fan of horror movies, so odd that I haven't read horror, but because I am writing horror and I plan on writing more horror, I want to read more horror. So this is my first kind of horror book. So after Heart-Shaped Box, I'm going to go back to fantasy and read Unnatural Magic by C.M. Wagner. This I bought... When did I buy this? It was definitely the start of this year, so I broke my book ban to buy this, but it just sounds so good. I'm really intrigued. It has trolls in it, it has magic, it has like mathematical prodigies. I'm just very, very interested in this book. It kind of reminded me like at the start of another series that I read when I was in high school. I really need to buy that series, I don't have it. But it kind of reminded me of that series that I read in high school, and I think that's what piqued my interest. And then it looks like the author is doing trolls a little bit differently, and I really like when authors play with already existing fantasy creatures and kind of make them a bit different and turn them into something that they want them to be. So it sounds to me, just going off the blurb, that the trolls in this book are kind of more like, say, the orcs in the World of Warcraft world. I'm only going off the Warcraft movie just to clarify. But it sounds like they live in clans, and like she's kind of leaving her clan to go and do better things and stuff. And it sounds really interesting, and I love when people add their own twist to kind of pre-existing creatures and things. So the next few books, so they're the main novels that I'm reading. The next few books I might kind of read between these or like alongside, and I may also kind of, I don't know, switch between them, or maybe I'll end up reading them more like straight novels. But they're kind of, some of them are short stories, some of them are books that I've already started that I need to finish, and one of them is a writing craft book. So the writing craft book that I want to read is called Bring Your Fiction to Life, and it's by Karen S. Wiesner? I'm not entirely sure on how to pronounce that. So this is just a writing craft book. I probably should have read this long before I decided my novel was finished, but I'm curious to read it now, now that I've finished my novel. But yeah, it sounds very interesting. It's not one that I've seen talked about a lot online, so I thought I'd give it a go. I found it in a bookshop 3 years ago when I was, you know, kind of still at the start of writing my novel, and I definitely should have read it then, but I just didn't. I don't know why. I think I was reading something else, or I don't know, maybe I thought the YouTube people I was watching were good enough for writing advice. But yeah, this I want to read. I've read a little bit of it, I think just the introduction and the start of chapter 1, and already I really like the voice that Karen is using throughout this. Very easy to read, very easy to kind of take in the information that she's trying to give you. I think I'm really going to enjoy this, and also it comes with a free downloadable like pack of like worksheets and stuff, so who knows, maybe I'll do a video about this actually. But yeah, maybe I'll use those worksheets to help me plan book 2. Never know. maybe I will, maybe I won't. We'll have to see. So the next single like book that I want to finish, because I've already started it, is Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. I thought that I had already finished this, and then I pulled it off my shelf. I think when I redid my shelf, or when I was trying to put my TBR shelf together. So I'm kind of most of the way through it, so it shouldn't take me too long to finish. But because of how it's written, like it's that old-timey kind of language, I definitely don't want to read it while I'm reading a fantasy kind of thing. So I might finish this in between books. So maybe if I need some time after Final Empire before I start the heart-shaped box, I might pull this out and finish this off. I read this, or the start of this I read, it'd be over a decade ago, honestly. But I'm really good in that I can remember everything about a book, even if I haven't picked it up in a long time. Usually, depends on the book, but usually if I enjoy the book, I can remember every element of it, every character, every story, all of it, and pick it up, you know, 5, 8, 10 years later and still know exactly where I'm up to and what's happening. So I should be able to do it with this, especially because Treasure Island is such a classic tale. I've watched every movie, I've watched every Treasure Island movie, every Treasure Island miniseries. I've watched, you know, Treasure Planet is one of my favorite movies of all time. So I know how the story goes. I know where it's going. I know what's going to happen. But yeah, I want to finish it because I'm so close. But I do really like Robert Louis Stevenson's writing as well. So I do really want to finish this. And then I think if I finish this, it'll be like my first classic that I've ever finished. And that's kind of exciting. I don't read a lot of classics and I should. But also, to go with that, some more Robert Louis Stevenson. So this is Dr. Jackal and Mr. Hyde and Other Stories. So I want to read this because obviously if you've been on my channel, if you know me at all, you know that I love classic horror. I love the Universal horror movies. They're like my favorite, the ones from like the 1930s and 40s. Love them so much. So Dr. Jackal and Mr. Hyde is definitely the kind of classic that I need to read. And again, I said I want to read more horror, but yeah, I definitely want to read this. It's again Robert Louis Stevenson. There's a bunch of other short stories in here that I want to read. So, you know, these two being so short, maybe I'll read them together. I don't know. But also because they're short stories, maybe I'll split it up and just kind of read them intermittently with the other books, just to kind of keep my restless mind at bay. And then the last one, which is again short story collection, it's the collected works of Edgar Allan Poe. So I have read quite a few of these. Obviously I've read The Raven, I've read Annabel Lee, also read The Black Cat, which is a short story. Love The Black Cat, I love Annabel Lee, I love The Raven, so I definitely want to read more Edgar Allan Poe. Again, these are all short stories, poems, that kind of thing, so very keen to read these. But again, I'm going to split it up between other things because if you've read any Edgar Allan Poe, you know that he's a little dreary, I guess is a word I could use. All of the stuff that he writes is, you know, either horror, it's very heavy, very kind of melancholy, that kind of thing. So it's not something I want to read, you know, the whole thing in one go. I think I'll probably like split it up and read it every now and then. And these kind of short story collections, like this one and the Robert Louis Stevenson one, I'm not going to give myself the, I'm going to finish these in like a couple of months or by the end of the year. These I'm kind of spread out. Like I definitely want to finish them, like read all of it, but I would rather kind of have these as like in between novels type thing. So this is kind of the last thing that's going to be on my TBR, but it might be on my TBR for a while because I'm going to slowly make my way through it just as I'm reading other books. But yeah, so that's my TBR for the next couple months. It may seem a bit short for other people, but it's gonna take me a while to get through these. I've had a good couple of runs on the last few books that I've read. The last few books being Invisible Boys by Holden Shepherd, which I highly recommend, and The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V. Schwab, which I kind of recommend. So those two books I read very quickly. But yeah, I think I'm in a good place with my reading. I'm getting a bit faster because I have been reading more, but we'll see how well I keep my enthusiasm for reading at the moment, just because really soon I'm going to have proof copies of my novel so I can read through it and edit it in a way that feels like it's a book so I'm gonna be more critical of it, I'm thinking. So I'm also gonna be reading and editing that while attempting to get through these 3 novels and short stories and stuff. So this may be my list for a while. It may be a while before I make another TBR video, but kind of where I'm at right now. I'm happy with those choices. They're definitely books that I've wanted to read for a long time. Definitely books I'm in the mood for, especially the horror and especially Treasure Island. I just, you know, pirates. I love pirates, and I definitely need to catch up on my pirate books for reasons. But yeah, I'm very excited. And I have already started The Final Empire. I always forget the name of it. I have already started The Final Empire, and I already know just from what I've read of the prologue that the style of writing is going to take a while for my brain to crack. So it might take me a while to get into that book, but yeah. That's basically it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what's on your TBR. What are you reading over, I guess, Christmas time? These are not very Christmassy books. But yeah, let me know if you've read any of these and what you think of them. Let me know what you are reading right now, what's on your current TBR. So I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe if you did. I would love to have you here. And hopefully I will see you in my next one. Bye.